brand new organisation and literally nothing set up. So we literally have to build it from the ground upwards. So it was after 2-3 weeks had gone by, I'm like, I can't keep saying the same thing to everything because everything's just moving a little bit slow. We haven't got a team in place to even deliver anything yet.
So in terms of what you did then as your first steps, because it's pretty daunting to go into any organisation, but to go in as the boss, as the mayor, what did you do to try to shape it in the way that you wanted it to go, the direction that you wanted to see this go?
Just to basically get up the team, what was there in place, and say like, number one job for building this combined authority and the way this vehicle is going to be driven is that the community comes first.
And I think one of the other things, and I think people in this audience and around the world actually who are watching, your story kind of re-emphasises everything I'm saying. We're building this party from the ground up and not the top down. And people like you, I think, are a shining beacon of that. And we need more people like you, don't we, ladies and gentlemen?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, your vision for Hull. Hull is a really interesting place, actually, and of course it's had its high points, it's had its low points, it's got poverty, it's got deprivation. What would a successful mayoralty look like for you?
Well, it's Hull in East Yorkshire. We can't forget East Yorkshire. It's 1,000 square miles round.
Yes, exactly.
So it's quite diverse. Obviously we've got Hull, the city centre. We've got rural communities as well as coastal. So it's a very diverse area, and they've all got different needs. But for me, I think what I'd like to see from this in 4 years' time is that we was on the streets with our communities. You know, we was putting them first. But I feel like obviously you've hit the nail on the head where infrastructure is key. Yeah. But I think if we can't bring in investment and create jobs, we've got nothing.
Yeah.
So my job now is to really try and bring as much investment in as possible. I've got a big platform. I want to use it to benefit our local people and create as many jobs as possible.
And just in terms of that, you made a really good point, actually, which is if we are going to be the party of government, we have to show we deliver at every level. We've got over, 880 councillors around the country. They're doing a sterling job. Those councillors are doing really, really good stuff. You're doing great work as well. Just in terms of that, is there a lot of pressure for you to succeed, to ensure that actually we build our parliamentarians from 4 to 450?
Yeah, I mean, but I think pressure's good. It's good pressure, isn't it, when you care about your community. And can I just give a shout out, actually? We've got a reformed deputy mayor. Stand up, Ingrid, briefly. Deputy Mayor of Lincolnshire, Greater Lincolnshire. It's important, really. It's about planning as well. I mean, I've got my growth plan, and it's about having these short-term goals which we can show we're delivering at each pinch point before the next election. So that's important. Now, look, as you know, we had our board meeting this week. We've got a lot to do, and I think, as you said, Luke is a prime example of somebody who's great, who we're attracting to our party. And I was very enamoured and loved Nigel's speech where he said that we want to attract people from industry, from different backgrounds. Because do you know what I found? Even being a whip, quite often it's the people who get promoted, David, are the ones who, I call them the brown noses. You know, they're the ones who are actually the career politicians who they would sell their grandmother. But wouldn't it be great to have a cabinet? I mean, we just heard, you know, with the GP, NHS experience. Wouldn't it be great to have a cabinet from these different industries, from these different sectors, who know what they're doing? And I think this is what reform can do.
Absolutely. And I agree with Nigel's sentiment entirely, which is, as we build and develop and grow, why have we got people who have been politicians all their lives in charge of education and health? Why don't we actually have people who know something about the subject they're in charge of?
Absolutely.
So for you, Luke, what do you bring to the job of being mayor that no one else can bring? Difficult question.
Well, the first thing I did as mayor is I launched a £1 million a year community fund to give to the people of our communities, to give them an option on what they want to see happen in their communities. So that's the first thing I did. the second thing for me is, I come from a different world, hard-working background, humble background. I run my private businesses, so I've come from private business sector where, we want something done, we get it done. And it's not to the pace of the public service where it's very slow.
Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it, yeah. It can be very fulfilling once we start delivering.
Fantastic. And just very quickly and finally, if I may, we've got an amazing group of people here, members, supporters. As you can see, we are on the ascent as a party. What can people do here, people around the country do to help you to succeed?
Just get involved and support. That's what I did. I got involved. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a better difference in what's going on in our communities. And if, you're passionate, do the same thing.
Andrea?
Get involved and start spreading the reform message. And if you yourself have got an interesting background, passion to save our country, please get involved. And also, I say for Luke and I, if you've know people who want to invest in our great counties, please do it, because we're not going to get Labour money here. We need your help in finding investment as well.
Well, thank you so much. I think you'll agree, ladies and gentlemen, the mayors are doing a fantastic job, aren't they? Give them a round of applause, please. Andrea Jenkins and Luke Campbell. I don't know about you, but it's so exciting watching this party grow, isn't it? From the ground up and where we've come from and where we are going. I said this yesterday, but the first conferences that I hosted, we had, 200-300 people. If you're looking at the last 2 days, we're now talking about 10,000 of you in this venue over the last 2 days. And that shows the meteoric rise of this party. Now, I'm delighted to say it is now time for something incredibly important. It's a special Telegraph Planet Normal podcast. Hosting it this afternoon is a dynamic duo. The first is an award-winning journalist and international best-selling author. She's best known as a feisty columnist for the Daily Telegraph newspaper, I think that's fair to say. And the second was economics and business editor at GB News from its launch, and has written his economic agenda column in the Telegraph every Sunday for more than 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alison Pearson and Liam Halligan.
Oh, hang on. He's got such a loud voice, you can hear him without the microphone, trust me. No.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome once again to Planet Normal, the Telegraph podcast with Alison Pearson.
Hello.
And me, Liam Halligan. Now, Planet Normal's been going for more than 5 years. We've had 267 weekly episodes. During that time, of course, as many of you all know, the rocket of right thinking, we've kept a safe distance, haven't we, co-pilot, from the madness of planet Earth?
Our country, as you may have noticed as we enter into, is it phase 2 or phase 3 of Keir Starmer's government, has been occupied by weird aliens. A Prime Minister who thinks women can have a penis, a new Deputy Prime Minister who goes one better and insists that men can grow a cervix.
A country where a much-loved comedian is accosted by 5 police officers and arrested at Heathrow. And meanwhile, your house gets burgled, your car gets nicked, and it's very difficult to get the police to show up.
There's no such madness on Planet Normal. That's why we climb aboard the rocket of right thinking every week to visit our celestial retreat, but we're delighted to have finally found a safe place to dock here on Earth.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is a rare terrestrial episode of Planet Normal, because we're here, a place stuffed full of Planet Normal citizens, people of sound mind and common sense, the 2025 Reform Party Conference!
Now, as we saw with Nigel's visit to Washington earlier this week, Britain's proud reputation for being the home of Magna Carta, free speech, the mother of parliaments, is being trashed by tin pot authoritarians.
It certainly is, co-pilot. And that theme is very much captured in today's very special Planet Normal guest. On regular episodes, you and I, don't we? We prattle on at the top of the show, sometimes for half an hour. Sometimes Alison talks about economics. Sometimes I get a word in, but not today. Let's get straight into it.
Our Planet Normal guest this week has become a living symbol of two-tier Britain. The sheer injustice she has suffered has shocked millions of people across Britain and indeed across the whole world. She's a wonderful mum, wife, beloved childminder, little kids from every corner of the earth she's taken wonderful care of. So I am, of course, referring to Britain's favourite political prisoner. Ladies and gentlemen, please give the warmest of welcomes
to Lucy Connelly.
That's a bit crazy.
Crikey.
Well, blow.
I told her she had a lot of support, so yeah, now she does.
Great to see you, Lucy. You've been out of prison now, it's over a fortnight. You served 380 days, more than a year.
I did.
Of a 31-month sentence for a tweet that was, I think it's fair to say, pretty nasty. A tweet that you fired off on the evening of the Southport massacre in July 2024, when, of course, 3 innocent children horrifically lost their lives. You're a bereaved mother yourself. You and your husband, Ray, lost your son, Harry, tragically aged 19 months in 2011. You get seriously distressed when children come to harm. You deleted the tweet after just a few hours, after going on a dog walk. You regret the tweet. All that said, you must have been absolutely horrified when you were arrested and sent to prison.
Of course. I mean, never in a million years did I ever think I was going to end up in prison. And it's not funny, but as I said earlier, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. However, I learnt a lot in there, and things that you'd never see in any other walk of life. And, you know, I really hope that I can change some things having come from there, because it really is such a broken system. The whole system just needs completely reforming.
Lucy, people have called you. Yeah. Just want to get this statement from Sir Keir Starmer. Very popular around here. Lucy, people have called you a political prisoner, and I know when I spoke to Lucy, she was in jail and we were allowed to speak, but only under strict conditions. And Lucy said something that struck me. She said, I knew they wanted to hammer me from the beginning, no matter what I said. And I just want to read, actually, this is a statement that Sir Keir Starmer made on the 4th of August. You may not have heard this, actually. I utterly condemn the far-right thuggery, the Prime Minister said, be in no doubt that those who have participated in violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online. Lucy, do you think the Prime Minister's statement affected the way you were treated by the justice system?
I would definitely say so. It wasn't a fair system. Everybody should have the right to be able to seek legal advice in a timely manner. But if you're charging somebody on a late Friday evening, remanding them with no real reason, no legal, reasons to remand me, putting them in front of a judge at 10 o'clock the following morning, it's very difficult to go out and find, expert legal advice. You just have to go with what you've got.
Yeah. And that legal advice to you was very firmly to plead guilty. And I think when I've discussed your case with people who, regular people who aren't journalists, who aren't following every twist and turn, they say, well, she pleaded guilty, didn't she? So what's the problem? Just explain to us here why it is that you pleaded guilty.
If I'd have pleaded not guilty, which I would have loved the opportunity to do, there is a really good chance that I would still be sitting in that prison right now on remand. They were in no hurry to get me through the system. They'd got me, they'd remanded me. Why would they be in a hurry to send me to trial or to sentence me?
Big delay in the court system.
There's a massive delay. I've met women in the prison system that have been there 2 years that, proclaiming their innocence, and I believe them, and they're still sat there waiting.
And of course, you had Edie at home with Ray, who I believe at that stage was 12.
Yeah, so...
You'd lost one child. You didn't want to miss any time with your existing child. You wanted to be home for Christmas.
All I thought was, right, what is my quickest way back to my family? And that was to go guilty. The sentence was a lot harsher than what we discussed and what, I was advised by my lawyer. He said, you'll be home by Christmas with TAG. Turns out I wasn't, eligible for TAG either. It didn't quite plan out how we thought it was going to. The judge basically added on my guilty credit on the other end, so I didn't really gain anything by going guilty, because I didn't really gain any credit, because he started from the top end of the sentencing guidelines as opposed to, the more lenient side.
Yeah. So we know that police tampered with your evidence. You had an interview with them.
There was a distortion of police evidence.
There was a distortion of police evidence. Yes, and the police released a statement, passed a statement to the Crown Prosecution Service, which said Mrs. Connelly doesn't like immigrants. She thinks they're a danger to children. Lucy, what did you actually say?
So, when I was first arrested, I had a solicitor, obviously, and I had my time with her, and I explained what the situation was, and I explained what I meant, and how I knew the difference between legal migration and illegal migration, and why I was so upset. And her advice to me was, you just put that really eloquently. I think you should go in there and tell the police exactly that, because you've just explained yourself really well. So that's what I did. I went into, interviewed by 2 police officers, and I explained myself. And I made it quite clear that I didn't have a problem with immigration, only illegal, unchecked immigration. I even went as far as saying, I'm well aware that if I go to the hospital today and I refuse to be, treated by an immigrant, I wouldn't get treated. And, as you know, I work for some doctors that are, Nigerian, Bangladeshi.
You look after their kids. They must think very highly of you.
And they are the most wonderful people. I know they really are. And I'm happy for them. And I'm proud that they work, in this country and in our NHS. And I just explained, I explained about a situation when I was in Liverpool and my friend and I got accosted by 2 guys that were staying in one of the hotels. And I was just trying to make the point that, you know, I'm big enough and ugly enough to back them off. We're quite brave, me and my friend, but not everybody is. If it was a young girl, if that was my teenage daughter, I wouldn't be very happy about that. And as I said to the police, you know, and my friend said, they're there all the time. They do this every night, kicking out time. So my point to the police was, well, why are you not there then? You know, why, if you know they're there accosting people at 3 o'clock in the morning, where's the police presence?
Yeah.
You know, and to that it was, you know, I don't, and I said, you know, unchecked immigration is a danger to my child and everyone else's child. And I'm well aware that we've got our own wrong uns walking the street. But one person in the country that could be a danger to my child is one too many. And all we've got to do is check them.
8 minutes. To that point, 30 people a day, 10,000 people roughly a year are arrested for tweets, retweets and other social media so-called transgressions. Meanwhile, you're in jail. The two-tier treatment is continuing. You're denied home leave, which is very usual for mothers of 12, 13-year-old kids. Meanwhile, a Labour councillor called, you know, you're characterised as the Tory councillor's wife. Meanwhile, a Labour...
councillor's racist wife.
Yeah. A Labour councillor, Ricky Jones, is cleared, even though he has called for, you know, for the throats to be slit, literally, of far-right thugs who are protesting, you know, ordinary people, some of them wearing pink and so on. How did you feel about that Ricky Jones case?
Do you know what? He was an idiot. I was an idiot. It doesn't make him a criminal any more than it makes me a criminal. He just was acting out of emotion.
I think that's an astonishing thing to say, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about a classy lady. And I know you said exactly that to Alison within 24 hours of leaving
I don't want to
prison.
live in a country where they're arresting people for having their opinion online and hurty words, and that's not priority.
Yeah. Family.
I wanted to, of the many stories that Lucy's told me, several are very, very upsetting about being denied leave when she was entitled to it from November. They made up excuses like she spoke to me, stuff they were letting out, really violent people, weren't they? I want you to tell everybody here, Lucy and Ray's daughter is a wonderful golfer. She is just 13 and until Mum went to jail, she was the best under 15 girl golfer in Europe, right? Amazing. Yeah. And Lucy and Ray met at the golf club, so it was a match made in heaven. And recently, Edie was selected to represent our country at the World Junior Championships. Amazing. And about a month ago, she went to the World Junior Championships, and Proud Dad was there taking pictures. All the girls were posing with their national flags, Australia, Germany, America, and Edie, of course, representing our country. And Ray sent to Lucy in prison pictures of their daughter and all the other girls with their national flags. And Lucy got in touch with Ray and said, hang on, there's 5 photos you've sent me that have been censored. Which child with a flag were you not allowed to see, Lucy?
My own. Because she was, I didn't know why at the time, so I rang Ray and I said, oh, these photos you sent me, you know, I assumed that maybe she was in a bikini or something like that, because you can understand why they wouldn't put, you know, let you have those on your wall or whatever. He said, no, they were all Edie just playing golf and the plants in the garden and stuff. And he said, oh, maybe it was because of the flag. I was like, no. Anyway, when I got out of prison and I got my stored prop, there was the photos with Edie draped in the flag with all the different country flags and the other children, but I wasn't allowed it.
That is Orwellian bureaucracy.
It's madness.
That is really nasty.
So,
you can't even see a photo of your own kid representing her country holding her national flag.
No, apparently not.
That's a disgrace. We just got a few minutes left, Lucy. I'm sure there's lots of people you want to thank, not least the lady to my left in the Margaret Thatcher
tribute dress.
I want to say publicly how proud I am of you, Alison Pearson, because...
Don't make me cry.
I've got to get my brownie points in, you know. Because I know, because we see a lot of each other, we spend a lot of time together, just what the knock on the door from the local police did to you. It almost destroyed you. And there were members of our profession who made fun of you and chided you, and they should be seriously ashamed of themselves, the journalists who did that. You were and are a warrior for justice in your own case, and that case is ongoing. But I would say that the way you've championed Lucy Connelly's case, the dogged determination you've shown, the humanity you've shown, in part stems from the experience that you yourself went through. So I say to you, Lucy, in just the last few minutes, I'm sure you'd like to thank Alison. I'm sure you'd like to thank Reform, not least Deputy Leader Richard Tice, who was the only MP who came to visit you in Northampton jail.
Yeah. Firstly, Alison, you're my hero.
You're
really
my hero, honey.
You just turned the tide for me by reporting the truth, and you didn't come out with your pitchfork like other mainstream media did without knowing all the facts. You didn't go with the narrative that the government were pushing. You went with the truth and the facts, and for that I'm forever grateful.
Oh, darling.
And with regards to Richard coming to visit me, I mean, that was amazing. That their attitude really did change towards me once he'd, come to visit and told them their fortune. And then...
Yeah, you said that they started being like, anything we can do for you,
nice.
Lucy.
Anything we can do for you, a bit late now, I'm going home soon. And obviously Nigel, and all of you guys, and all of the Reform Party, and everybody that supported me, when it wasn't fashionable. Thank you all. And to my husband, who has just been amazing. He's such a good egg.
Where is he? Ray somewhere. Where is he? Ray's here. Just want to say two last things. One very moving thing. One reason I wanted to champion Lucy's case is because nobody in the justice system cared that Lucy and Ray had lost their little boy at 19 months to medical negligence. And she called me from prison and she said, Alison, it's quite bad here, she said, but the worst thing in the world has already happened to me because I lost my baby, so it doesn't matter, they can't hurt me. So I have huge... And I think everybody wants to know you've become this symbol, and I know you said it's about more than me. So I want to know what next for Lucy Connelly. You've become famous now, notorious. What would you like to do?
I'd really love to use my experience to work with, hopefully, Reform in the future. and overhaul the prison system, especially the women's estate. It doesn't work. It's a waste of all of our money, and it just needs... we could let 80% of the women population out of prison and none of us would be any danger. They need housing, they need mental health, they need rehab, and they just need people to care. That's it.
Yeah.
And Lucy, you really believe that strongly, don't you? You think we don't actually need to build more prisons. We just make much better use of the prisons we already have.
Reform the system that we have, invest that money in housing, mental health, help for people. And how are you staffing these prisons? You can't staff the ones you've got. It's nonsense. It's not going to work.
And one thing, Lucy told me that she voted. How did you vote at the last election?
Reform. It didn't go down too well in her house.
She was married to a Tory councillor at the time.
You can get some tips off Suella Braverman. Oh, that one's That's changed now. So, Lucy, it's great to have you with us. I think everybody, in the way you've conducted yourself, in the small number of interviews since you've given, since you left prison, in prison you demonstrated your intellect. You were enormous help to many of the women in there with their correspondence. And
them to me. I learned such a lot from them ladies. It's a different level of intelligence that they have. They've had to live, they've lived a different life to us. They're clever in a different way, and I learnt lots from them. Not all legal, but...
Actually, when Lucy went in, you said that they said, "What you in for, Luce?" And you said, "What did you say?" You
said a tweet, and
and they went,
"No, you're not." And actually, at that point, I was glad I was getting such a lot of, be it negative media attention, because they wouldn't have believed me. They'd have said I was something else, that nobody wants to be in prison. Because, like, you know, everyone's got a cover story.
But you really do want to get involved in reforming the criminal justice system.
It would, it'd make me so
I think you've got
happy.
every qualification to do so, if I may say so.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You're better in it now. Lucy, it's been an honour and a privilege to get to know you. I'm so glad that your case, that you're out of prison. I'm so glad you're reunited with your lovely family.
So
good luck to you. We haven't heard the
so
last of Lucy Connelly, I'm sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucy Connelly.
So that's it from Planet Normal, this very special edition as we leave our sanctuary of sweet reason, our flying refuge of reasoned views. If you'd like to listen back to our chat with Lucy
here today or become a regular listener, you can find Planet Normal on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Thanks to our producers, Cass Ho, Louisa Wells, Katie Dobson-Hall and Matthew Bailey, and also to Reform UK, not least to Conference Supremo, Aaron Lobo, who has made all this magnificence happen.
And thank you especially to Nigel Farage and Richard Tice for giving us precious time here with you at your party conference. Stay safe and in touch with us and with each other. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, wasn't she utterly incredible? Thank you so much for sharing your story with us here at Reform UK, and I have to say, only Reform UK will reform the criminal justice system to ensure it is fit for purpose. Now, that brings us to our penultimate speaker today. He's a good friend of mine. He's a man who, quite frankly, has dedicated so much of his life to this party. Without him, this party would not exist. I got to know him when we served in the European Parliament in Brussels, and we have worked together for a long 6 years, since 2019. He really is an amazing politician. He is a passionate campaigner, and he cares very deeply for his constituents in Boston and Skegness. Let's remind ourselves of his story.
We're back. Yes, recess is over and the action has kicked off once again. It's like being back at school. And sure enough, we're making all the noise. Reform are leading the way of policy, about immigration, about saving money, about next stupid zero. We're winding up all the right people in that place behind me. And yes, there's just 4 Reform MPs at the moment. But we're the ones that Starmer and Labour are panicking about. We're the real opposition. Patience is a virtue. Just you wait. It's all happening within just a few years. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of Reform MPs shaping the debate and, frankly, saving our United Kingdom.
Please welcome to the stage the Member of Parliament for Boston and Skegness and the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice.
Wow! Hello! Anyone having any fun? Are we enjoying ourselves? What a party, what an amazing, amazing group of brilliant, wonderful reformers. It's incredible, the size, the scale, the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement, the hope. And an incredible 2 days, ladies and gentlemen, that we have had. And to listen just then to Lucy, who I had the privilege of meeting a couple of months ago in a slightly different location. It's wonderful to see her back with us and to hear her direct telling her story. And I think that she has a huge opportunity to help reform and help the cause of free speech. Now, these events don't just happen. They don't just happen, ladies and gentlemen. They take a massive amount of work. And I just want to say a huge thank you to our chairman, David Bull, who never gets any thanks, and his team, Aaron Lobo. They've been amazing, absolutely incredible. And just to clarify, David does have more hairspray on than me, as always. Now, look. I've got to talk about some bad news, and then we can finish on some good news. Because yes, we do need to talk about the money. Because the reality is that the state of the country's finances are not good. They're in a shocking, shocking state. And all of the important data is bad. Job numbers after the disastrous budget last October are down 160,000+. They're falling at a rate, the fastest rate since COVID. Travel spend is down. Construction spend is down. Growth across the board is down. And the wrong numbers are going up. Yes, inflation is going up. We've got the borrowing costs are going up. The amount of borrowing is going up. All of these numbers are heading rapidly in the wrong direction. And just this week, we hit a 30-year high in the cost of the government borrowing money for 30 years. It peaked at about 5.75%. I know I'm a bit anarchy about this stuff, but it matters. And basically, the bond markets are applying what they eloquently call the moron premium to our Rachel from complaints. Or was it a Counselly? I'm not quite sure, but the point is, the bond markets do not trust this government at all. They know that they cannot control public spending that is completely and utterly out of control. And the chances of us getting through the lifetime of this Parliament without some form of financial drama is remote. And I've been speaking to a lot of people very close to the market, and it's a bit tense, it's a bit difficult, to say the least. That's the bad news. The good news, folks, is that actually a reform government will be a strong government under the brilliant, courageous leadership of Nigel Farage. And a reformed Chancellor will be a strong Chancellor who can get our economy motoring again. You won't see a reformed Chancellor crying on the front benches. And the reality is that we know what is needed to get the economy motoring. We've got to cut the vast amount of wasteful government spending. We've got to get rid of the vast, incredible amount of daft, useless regulations, many of them from our friends, our old friends, the EU. And if we achieve those things, then we can afford what I call performance-related tax cuts. That gives a direction of travel of how we can motivate and enthuse and inspire. And the remarkable thing, folks, is that we're already having an incredible influence. I mean, apart from the fact that we exceeded everybody's expectations in the May elections, controlling 10 councils, the biggest party in another 3, over 800 councillors, no one thought that was possible. But on some of the biggest issues of the day, we're leading the way. So on the issue that the Bank of England is voluntarily paying interest unnecessarily to the rich city banks, I raised it. They scratched their head, what the hell's Tice talking about? Then they looked into it, good Lord, he's right. I wrote a 3-page letter to the Governor of the Bank of England. He wrote back, if you haven't seen it, it's on their website, and I have got a meeting with the Governor later this month. They are taking us very, very seriously on that issue. You know what's extraordinary? You can have a scrutiny committee in a council monitoring £5,000 of expenditure, but you can have a monetary policy committee and a Governor of Bank of England making decisions about £100+ billion with no scrutiny from Parliament of any sensible, meaningful kind. It's absolute insanity, complete insanity. So we're having an influence there. And then the second area where we're having an influence, and where once again we got the numbers right, is on our good old friend, net stupid zero. And it's important to remember, 3-word slogans matter. And it's lovely to see steam oozing out of the ears of Red Ed Miliband when I gently raise it with him politely in the House of Commons. The penny is dropping with people. Contrary to what they said, the bills are going up, they're not going down. The jobs are being destroyed, they're not being created. Industries are being destroyed in front of our very eyes, and it is absolutely disgraceful. Just in Lincolnshire alone, Andrea and I, she's doing a brilliant job as mayor, by the way, as is Luke. Andrea and I have been working incredibly hard to try and save thousands of jobs based around the Lindsey oil refinery, which this government, in its ideological stupidity, seems to want to close. We've actually introduced potential bidders to this process. That's how we get stuck in to make things happen and to save jobs. In the same way that, frankly, it was because of Nigel and I that British Steel was saved. So we are having a huge influence. We wrote a letter to all of the potential investors in what they call allocation round 7. That rolls off the tongue very nicely. Which is all about more renewable offshore wind farms and solar farms and all the likes. We said, you're on notice. We don't want you signing big, long contracts at ever higher bills. You are on notice that we do not consider your contracts from here on valid. This is a con. We're being misled. We're being lied to. I'm going to borrow an old trick from my good friend Lee, who's a brilliant chief whip. Do we want these big subsidy contracts anymore? No. Let's just rip it up. Oh, by the way, given that we're a bit short of cash, and that this government think it's a good idea to waste cash giving away our valuable strategic Chagos Islands, maybe we should keep those too. Anyone fancy ripping up that deal? It's done. It's done. We're not going to tolerate this waste of our cash and this loss of our strategic assets. It's absolutely vital. So we're having a huge influence. I've written to over 100 potential investors in solar farms. Fine, put solar panels on the roofs of homes and industrial units. Lincolnshire does not want 100 square miles of solar panels, least of all from China, covering our agricultural farmland. And we don't want the battery storage either. We've got serious questions about them. And something significant has happened this week, ladies and gentlemen. As we write these letters to these shareholders and investors saying, don't do it, you're on notice. This week, I believe, a planning application for a solar farm and a battery storage has been rejected on concerns about safety next to a school. That is potentially a significant moment. So, and that's the joy of this conference. We're all learning so much. We're making such an influence already. They never thought it could be done. They never thought we could be polling in the lead and all this. But actually, we are shaping and influencing how investors think. And that's absolutely vital. So on the one hand, we could save money with the Bank of England. On the other hand, when I said net zero was costing 30 billion of taxpayers' cash, they scratched their head. They said, no, Tice, you're not right there. A year later, the OBR caught up with us. And they did their numbers, and they came up with, guess what? 30 billion. Even our old friends at the Climate Change Committee, they're not our friends, by the way, they said, give or take, it's a similar number. So actually, we're quite good at this stuff. It turns out we're right on the numbers. So when I said last year and before the May elections with others that we could save £5 in 100 on wasteful council and government spending, all the commentators and the journos said, don't be ridiculous, Tice. You can't do it, it's not there. And we said, we all know it's there. And sure enough, this Monday, I exposed the scandal of the mismanagement, the overcharging, and the underperformance of the local government pension schemes. And I mean, this is like, it's like looking down deep down the back of the sofa. You just dig deeper than anybody else and you find a pile of cash. My God, there's like 8 to 10 billion quid under the sofa. Is that useful? Would that help create a brilliant world-leading social care system and provision in our councils across the country? Is that what we want? Or would you rather be on the side of the rich city investment managers? I didn't think so. So we are hard at work. This is literally reform at work. We're getting stuck in, and we're only 3.5 months into these councils. Imagine what we could do in 3.5 years. Imagine what happens if people listening and watching say, I'd quite like you to run our council, please, next May. Because then we can do the same. And so this stuff is really, really significant. And then we've got all the property portfolios and assets owned by these councils. And from the early stages of what information I've got already, frankly, the mismanagement of those is woeful. So the waste is everywhere. We're after it. Now, there's been a bit of chat recently about this thing. There's a jab flying around. And a jab that sort of helps reduce the size of our waste. So I thought, well, maybe, should we apply a bit of the old Wegovy to slim down the civil service? What about a touch of the old Monjaro to reduce the size of the Quangos? And finally, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, a bit of the Ozempic to reduce the bloated welfare state. I think this could work. So there's massive amount of waste to cut out of the system. And I know that only reform can achieve that because we have been round the block. We've got incredibly successful people in the party at the moment and joining us as we speak. And therefore, we know that actually we can also cut the vast amounts of unnecessary, daft regulations. Now, I want a bit of audience participation here. Hands up, anyone who likes GDPR. Anyone? Not a single hand up amounts 4,000 people. Quite right, it's a nightmare. You're always on your phone, yeah, go away, cookies. And do you know what it affects most? Healthcare. I talk to people in healthcare, and it's a major, major problem. That brings me on to the other problem. My friends, aren't they lovely? My friends, the bats. I spoke last time about the £100 million bat shit. Well, that was on a national scale with HS Stupid too. But here in Lincolnshire, not here in Lincolnshire, but in my county of Lincolnshire, oh yes, our friends at Natural England, they want another bat shed. They want a bat tunnel to go under a relief road that is due to be built in Lincolnshire. 5 million quid. Is that a good use of 5 million quid? No. I don't think so too. So this week, I've written to the chief executive of Natural England, and I've said this is really not a very good idea. I hope you support me on this. So I'm looking forward to the reply, because I don't think that's a good use of taxpayers' cash. And if Natural England think that's a good use of our money at any time, then I think a reform government needs to have serious words with Natural England. It's not on. And there's a whole bunch more. What I know, folks, what I know is that this level of influence, shaking things up, disrupting people, challenging people, stopping the rip-offs. You see, essentially, we're now negotiating hard on behalf of the taxpayer. And bluntly, I think there's nobody better than us to do just that. And when we achieve this, when we achieve those savings, we cut the regulations, we can tell our friends in the bond markets, we told you so, this is how we can afford to cut the taxes on a sort of performance-related basis with a direction of travel so that we can get the economy motoring even more. I want 2.5%, 3.5%, like we used to have in the 80s and 90s. That's what makes us better off. That gives us the revenues to get the debt to GDP down. That then drives proper growth and prosperity and more money in our public services. We can do this stuff. And what's incredibly exciting, as I draw towards a close, is that you've seen the membership rise to 241,000+ as we speak. The quantity of incredible people coming to us and saying, you are the party to save Britain. You are the party that understands how business can get things growing again. That is who we are. Incredible people, some of the most successful people. I met a guy this week, a physicist, utterly brilliant, who wants to help just behind the scenes for nothing. This is incredible, folks. I'm so, so proud of what we're all achieving together. So the good news is that, yes, it's gloomy at the moment. We have to have optimism. We have to look forward. And what I can tell you is that whilst we may be currently in a damp, dark, gloomy, long tunnel of deep socialism, there is light at the end of the tunnel, folks. It's there. It's in front of us. And slowly but surely, that light will get closer and closer. And let me tell you what that light is. It is the light of reform. It is the hope of reform. It is the aspiration of reform. It is the confidence and the belief of reform. Do you fancy a bit of that? Yes. Do you think the country wants a bit of that? Yes. Do you think that's the reason we're leading in the polls? Yes. Folks, do you want to save our United Kingdom? Yes. Do you want to make the United Kingdom great again? Yes. And let's just check here. Would you like to see Nigel Farage as our next Prime Minister? Yes. Then welcome him to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was never going to end. Good afternoon, conference. Richard, what a fabulous speech. Lots of passion, lots of facts, lots of humour. And we all have to remember that without Richard, Reform UK would not have survived as a political party during those very difficult years. And I am very blessed. I am very blessed to have a deputy leader as talented and as hard-working as Richard is. He's a tremendous credit to this party. Give him a round of applause. I'm pleased to see the membership is now up through 242,000, 250,000. Here we come. It has been... I really believe it's been the most incredible conference. The big word that comes out of it is energy. The energy has been literally unbelievable. The enthusiasm has been extraordinary. And the fact that you've all stayed right to the very end. And what a strong end it was, wasn't it? Lucy Connelly, wow, what about that? But there was one speech yesterday that made me think deeply about our future. And that was Preston Manning, the founder of the Reform Party of Canada, a party that came from nowhere and took over the government of Canada and ran it well for 10 years. And he talked about the story of how they did it. And there was a point that he made. The point that he made was, when we had our disagreements, we had them in private. Now, you know, you can't get a large number of councillors from a county and everyone's going to love each other, that everyone's going to agree. It's not possible with human beings that that could ever be the case. But my sort of big message at the end of this conference, as we head towards those massive elections in Wales, in Scotland, in London, in the Midlands and elsewhere next year, is that you are the people's army. And to succeed, it needs one thing: discipline. Can we please exercise discipline and air our disagreements between each other in private and not in public? And if we do that, we will succeed. We will. Now, There was another speech yesterday, right at the end, that really did move me. And it was Lee Anderson, who, by the way, can be incredibly funny when he wants to be. But there was a very serious message that came from Lee yesterday, and it talked about good, sound, solid principles. He talked about his life, and it encapsulated everything we're about. He talked about his family. He talked about his community. He talked about his belief in country. He talked about getting up of a morning, going to work. He talked about self-pride, self-respect, getting on with life, not relying on others to bail you out of your problems, whilst at the same time fully understanding there are some in society who do need help. But I think we all know we're now living in a country where we're paying a lot of people not to go to work who should be going to work. And I want to invite Lee Anderson up onto the stage now. Come on, Lee.
Great man.
I was so impressed by what Lee said, and particularly as you'd worked within the system, Lee, hadn't you?
Yeah, I've worked within the system, Nigel. I worked for the Citizens Advice Bureau for many, many years. I saw real poverty, I saw real desperation, but I also saw some people that should have been going to work, some may be swinging the lead sometimes, but it's not fair because we should always protect our vulnerable, our disabled people, the people that need the real care. But there are millions of people out there. And I don't always, to be honest with you, Nigel, I don't always blame the people because I was lucky. I was lucky in the fact that I lived in a little terraced house with my mum and dad. But like I said yesterday, we were the alarm clock generation. I heard my dad get up in the morning and go and do his shift. Didn't have much money, but that taught me the value of hard work and family. Get out there, do a job, do some graft and provide for your family. And if we all do that, under Nigel Farage's leadership, we'll make this a better country.
Well, having heard all of that, I have no hesitation in announcing henceforth Lee Anderson is this party's welfare spokesman. Congratulations, Lee. Now, can I please just say this? This was the one man that had the guts at the end of the last Parliament to join Reform, and he won his seat with an even bigger majority.
Bigger vote share, yeah.
Bigger vote share. He encouraged people in Ashfield and in neighbouring areas to put their names forward for the county council elections, and we had a massive success. Next year, we're going to need up to 5,000 of you standing in Swindon, standing in bits of Kent, standing in bits of Yorkshire, standing in the West Midlands, Wales, Scotland and London, where we're going to need almost 2,000 people as candidates. Last year, at the end of the conference, I urged people, please put your names forward to be a candidate. And people went out, and the Reform Village is there today, and they volunteered in large numbers. And I have to make that same call to you, conference, this afternoon. Are there people among you prepared to stand up? Prepared to stand up and be candidates next year? Who wants to be a candidate next year? Stand up.
Stand up.
Come on, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. This is the People's Army in operation. Well done, all of you. Fabulous.
Get up. Come on.
Fabulous. Well, thank you. Thank you. You do realise that you're all on camera. You don't mind? Good. Good. There's no turning back for any of you. Okay, we're going to end this conference now. I'm going to invite all the other speakers, those that have participated on the stage here over the last 2 days, to come and join Lee and I now and give them a big hand as they make their way up the steps. You better come here.
Well done, Sarah.
Yeah, fine. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the team. Thank you to you for all being here. I'm very proud to lead a party like this. I've had a fantastic conference. I really am honoured to be doing this job with your enthusiasm, encourage, love and support. Now, we will end the conference by singing the national anthem. But I am going to keep the microphone as far away. I'm going to let Andrea Jenkins be the star. So, please stand for the national anthem and travel home safely.
Please join in as well.